All right, very good. Good evening. The time being 7:02, and all members of the planning board being present, I call this meeting to order. As a reminder to everyone, please make sure that you mute your computers if you're not the person speaking or asking questions at that time. It helps with the background noise. For those at home, the participation call-in number is 978-771-0819. That's for anyone who wants to call in on any of the public matters. I believe the queue is up to 3 people. So if for some reason you try to call in and it's busy, please try back as people drop off after they finish speaking. There is a delay, so we will account for the delay between the live meeting and what people are seeing on the TV at home, which is on channel 99 for Comcast and channel 33 for Verizon. Before we get started, I just want to welcome back Mr. Delaney. Glad to have him back with us.
I want to thank you all.
Good to see you. All right, so with that, we start with approval of minutes for April 13th, 2020.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Vin Fratelli here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 13th, 2020 as written.
All right, a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Your minutes. Obviously, for the other stuff, we'll do a roll call vote, but for that, we should be fine. All right, moving on to agenda item B, committee reports, administrative actions. Do any of the members have any committee reports they need to make at this time?
All set, Mr. Chairman, here.
All set.
All right, I don't hear any, so let's
Mr.
take
Fowler's on mute.
That's all right. I don't think we have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
hi there, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Fowler here?
Yeah, do you have a?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, it's not committee reports. I want to say something before the meeting starts. If you don't mind.
No, not at all. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the employees that help us make our decisions during these crazy times. Number one, our recording secretary, Dawn, for her concise minutes. Planning board administrative assistant, Alex, for putting together the hundreds of pages of our information that gives us what we have to work on and gives us our agenda. Our planner, Anna, who deals with all the applicants, both before and after the meetings and hearings. Thanks for your review letter for us to consider. And I would like to also thank Steve Sadwick for all that you do for us. And I'd like to say again, thank you all for your help. Makes it easier for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. I think we all agree that we wouldn't be able to do any of this without any of those folks behind the scenes making sure that we have what we need and we can get through these meetings. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. With that, then we'll move on to agenda item B2, which is A&R Plan 10 Blue Spruce Lane. Do you have anyone here for this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dick Cuco. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, Mr. Cuco. Floor is yours.
All right. Hope you have the plan in front of you, but basically, we have lot 3 on Blue Spruce Lane that was originally like about an acre and a half, which included the area for a building lot and an area that was included in the detention basin. The applicant is about to sell lot 3, but wants to keep the portion that has the detention basin on it. So we have it listed as parcel D, and it's listed as not a building lot. That lot contains about 31,000 square feet, and lot 3A has over an acre and meets all the requirements. So there may be some other disposition of that lot in the future, but now he wants to keep it because he maintains the detention basin. Any questions?
We'll start with Mr. Fowler.
I believe that I said it looks like it conforms to all the zoning and I,
We lose you, Mr. Fowler?
I think he's on mute, Steve.
Well, he was speaking, so.
I-
Oh,
can
there
you
you
hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Yep. I think I double clicked.
That's all right.
I'm all set with this. It conforms to the zoning and that's all I have to say. Fine. All good.
All right, Mr. Fratalia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I did review the plan and I was questioning whether it was lot 3A, which is the actual lot, but I am all set with it as well. So I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ryder.
Thank you. I reviewed the plan as well, and I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Delaney.
Yes, I've reviewed the plan and I'm all set with this as well.
Chair is all set as well. And I'm looking at, there's access to that parcel D, correct? For him to do whatever maintenance and whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, the access comes around the other side of lot 2. See the access easement.
Okay. All right. So otherwise, I'm all set. All right. What is the pleasure of the board as to the approval not required application?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it possible for the applicant to show his screen to the public in our,
Hugo, are you able to show your screen?
I don't know. You had time here and the end of that code.
You're also sounding a little psychedelic there. Do you have a phone and a computer on?
No,
No, it sounds better now.
what was the question?
Whether or not you were able to share your screen so that you could show the plan.
Was able to shade it?
Share your plan, your screen,
Oh,
so that you can show the plan.
sure. I don't know how to do that. Have it on my desktop. There's an arrow.
If you tap your screen, then
Yeah.
you'll see the microphone, the camera, and then an arrow up. It's the third one in from the left.
See it now?
Yep.
I mean, I can see it on my screen, so I don't see.
All right, let's see. I know Mr. Fowler was trying to do this a moment ago, but I'm not sure how much luck I'm going to have trying to do the same. Well, I don't know if we can, if that'll
A
pick
little
up
higher.
a little
so
higher.
I can possibly show it on my screen, Mr. Chairman.
So we all have the same plan. Is that correct, right?
Yeah, I
but
just
I'm
want
just
the
trying to put it up for the public to see.
Anna, why don't you do that?
Yeah, so I just clicked it to
Okay.
share my screen. I'm not sure if that's what you're seeing now.
That's
Yeah,
what I
lot
see.
3A,
Yeah.
correct?
You see
Right.
it?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a document now. I think you should be able to see the whole thing. So I just wanted the public to be able to see it, because that's the process we should be doing. So,
All right, very good. So with that on the screen, what is the pleasure of the board as to the A&R plan as submitted?
Motion to endorse the plan.
A motion to endorse. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded. I'll take the roll. Mr. Fowler?
Aye.
Mr. Battaglia?
All right.
Mr. Ryder? Mr. Ryder?
There was something about him leaving the meeting.
No, he told me after he was going to need to do that. And I got dropped off. We'll take Mr. Delaney while we wait.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. We have Mr. Ryder back. One more second. We have 4 votes in the affirmative. When we get Mr. Ryder back on, I don't know if we can take his vote after the fact, but either way, there's sufficient votes to approve the A&R. You know, is it fine just the way it is?
Yeah, you can endorse it with 4 votes.
So why don't we do that, and then we'll not hold on too long for this.
Here he is. He's back.
Mr. Ryder, do we have you?
Mr. Chairman, I'm back.
All right. We were taking the
Yes,
vote
and I
on
approve.
the- Okay, very good. So we
Yes,
have
sir.
Mr. Ryder voting in the affirmative as well. So that's a unanimous on the endorsement of the A&R plan.
My
All right.
apologies, I
No.
lost connection.
No problem, it happens. We'll knock on wood and hope it doesn't happen too many times to all of us. All right, so moving on.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Cuco, I'm sorry?
He said, thank you.
Oh, very good. All right, moving on to agenda item C, 2512 Main Street, site plan special permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right, so a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, do we have anyone for 2512 Main Street?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Jim Hanley, Civil Design.
Jim? Do you have anyone else with you or just yourself?
Mira Ellen Ollie is also here from my office, and I don't see anybody else here on the list. So I think it's just us two.
All right, very good. So with that, the floor is yours.
Okay, so just to give the IT guys a heads up, I'm going to ask to share my screen. And let's see if. Okay, great. Good, one page. Okay, so 2512 Main Street, it's the Hobart's Country Store, and we're here tonight to ask for your consideration for site plan special permit, as well as 4 individual waivers that I will get to in a few minutes. So this is our first meeting for this project with your board. So basically, kind of the goal here is to kind of walk through the existing conditions, talk about the site constraints. Actually have a number of constraints that really kind of dictated what we could and could not do with the site. Talk about the proposed improvements, and then talk about where we stand. So again, we're at 2512 Main Street, tax map 94, lot 65, and that's the Hobart's Country Store. So I just pulled this off of Google Earth or Street View earlier today. Sure you guys are all familiar with it. Located plus or minus 1,000 feet up on 38 north of the Wilmington line. It is a liquor/convenience store built in, according to the assessor's office, built in 1900, and it's a wood-framed 3,000 plus or minus 2.5 story building. The owners are MIT LLC, Pete and Sanjay Patel, and they've owned it for almost 15 years, since 2006. So I want to talk a little bit about the site, but I'll start here. And hopefully this is, hopefully you can see my screen in my pointer here. This is the town line. So we're plus or minus 1,000 feet north, kitty cornered across from State Street. And this one here, you can actually see State Street here, right? So this is State Street, and that's Hobart. We got 1.2 acres of land, of which about 50% is wetlands. So this is our existing conditions plan. This heavy green line here that you can see in the back, that is our wetland line that's been confirmed by conservation. So all this land area in the back here, this is all wet. So we got 1.2 acres of land. We got about 200 feet of frontage along 38, and this is where 8th Street is located. And about 50% of the total lot ends up being wetland. You can see we've got a large, really unconstrained parking area here. If this is 218 feet, I'd say you have almost 150-foot curb cut right here. It's really totally unconstrained parking along the perimeter of the parking lot, and then our building here. So a couple of things to note with this that made this a bit of a challenge. This existing building, again, is over 100 years old. It's less than 10 feet from the right of way, right? Which makes sense to how they built it 100 years ago, but now it doesn't fit the front yard setback. And if you can, I don't know if you can see my arrow here, but this area in the back, this is the side yard setback, which is 3.1 feet. So we have a non-conforming site from a front yard setback as well as from a side yard setback. So before I get into all the details of the proposed stuff, I want to talk a little bit about the procedure that we went through, because we started this not quite a year ago, but 6 months ago or so was our first meeting with conservation. So one of the challenges that we have on this site in particular is, let's see here. It's just the wetland line and where it is relative to 38, and then balancing that with the 50-foot no build, which is this second green line here closer to 38. So the first thing we had to do before we could even put a building on this site or even start to do concepts was get the line delineated and get it confirmed by conservation. So we submitted an application way back in September of 2019, and they approved it in October of 2019. So immediately thereafter, once we had our conservation setbacks kind of pinned down, we began to develop a couple of different concept plans. Again, tough site, old building, minimum setbacks, and wetland setbacks that we're trying to contend with. So we sat in a preliminary IDR on November 5th of 2019. And we presented this plan as well as this second plan here that showed basically two different concepts, one of which was an addition to the existing building, and the second was a standalone. So we went around the table at the IDR, and it was clear that numerous different department heads thought we could do better, okay? So we took their comments back, and we went back for a second IDR in December. And we came basically up with a plan that's pretty consistent with the plan that you see in front of you here tonight. Excuse me. So that was the second IDR in December. In between the two, we went to conservation because in order to make this site work with a new freestanding building, we have to be within their 50-foot wetland buffer. So on the screen here, you can see that we're actually within 32.5 feet. And we're working with the commission to be able to place the building within their 50 foot. As long as we make our areas balanced to meet their regulation, we can do that. But we had to get to them so that we have a level of comfort to eventually get to you. So we did that also in December. And then once we had a level of comfort from conservation, we had to address the side yard setbacks. And you can see we have 2 side yard setbacks for this building here. On the north side of the building, we have 18.7 feet from the existing property line. And on the south side, we have 14.5 feet. The reason that we did it like this is we have an existing residential use to the north and a commercial use to the south. So we had to try to balance that a little bit. Keep in mind, the existing setback was 3.1 feet to the residential use. So in February, on February 17th, we met with the Board of Appeals. We asked for a reduction to the side yard setback from 30 feet down to 14.5 feet. And fortunately for us, we were able to get that variance. So now we're in March. We file our applications with both conservation and your board. We submit a plan to the fire department as well, so that they have an opportunity to review our plan. We also file with DOT. And last week, we were able to get the planner's comments as well as DPW's comments. So we reviewed these comments. We got them last week. We haven't made any modifications. We take no issue with anything. We're going to modify our information to address their comments. One thing to note, and you won't see in your package here tonight, or the original package that we provided, was the architecturals. And I know that's part of the submission requirements for this special permit. Unfortunately, the architect has just been closed down due to the current circumstance. So we'll get that for you, but we reached out to them last week and they've literally been out of work for a month. So they weren't able to I was hoping to have it for you tonight. So that's kind of the chronology as far as the proposed development goes. So you can see in the middle of the building, the site here, we have 4,295 square feet. The use is going to remain exactly the same. That's going to be a combination of both convenience store and liquor store. It'll be 100% ADA compliant, which it's not now. And we've been able to design this with the help of hopefully getting some help from conservation to maintain the front yard setback of 50 feet. So you can see right here, it's 57.4 feet, and you're actually require 50 feet off of 38. So we've been able to provide some fairly significant improvements here. As far as the site goes, we have one-way traffic circulation. That's the only way we can make this work, is to enter in the southern access drive, pull in and exit out of the northern access drive. We have 17 parking spaces, and as you can see, we have provisions for landscaping, utilities, drainage in the on the southern side. I'm sorry, a dumpster pad on the southern side, and then a loading area as well on the southern side. We are in front of you asking for relief. So as I mentioned, tough site, challenging site. We've met with conservation and got a feeling that they will entertain the building within the 50 foot. We've also met with, I got to plug my battery in. Okay, I think we're good. And we've also met with Board of Appeals, and Board of Appeals has issued that variance for us. So as far as your site waivers go, your zoning requires one parking space per 200 square feet, regardless of the use in a retail facility. They break it down a little bit. Based on the size of the building, what would be required here would be 21 spaces. We actually have 17 spaces. And the way we support this is that, somebody stole my screen. Let's try this again. Let's start sharing. The way we support that is looking through the ITE manual. And the ITE manual basically has requires only 13 spaces. We're providing 17, so we're kind of in the middle of the minimum based on ITE and what the actual zoning requires. The second waiver is to allow for 20-foot a 20-foot access lane abutting 90-degree parking. Your table 5140 has 90-degree parking when it's a two-way parking lot. They don't have it when it's a one-way parking lot. So we've run an auto turn analysis through this. We know it works from a passenger's car standpoint. In a minute, I'll show you the fire department standpoint as well. So we know that this works, and the table just doesn't cover 90-degree one-way traffic. The third waiver request is the distance between these two driveways. Your zoning requires 200 feet. I think that's probably meant more for two-way traffic, and since this is one-way traffic, I think it complies with what we've done in the past in similar situations like this. We have, I believe it's 140-ish feet plus or minus, so we're below that 200 feet. And again, ultimately, I have to work with DOT in order to be able to gain access to their roadway. The final one is to allow for parking within 20 feet of the right-of-way line. Two things here, one of which is that if we were to look at what is actually out there today, I mean, there's literally no landscape buffer whatsoever. What we're proposing is off of the right-of-way, providing 8 feet, and then from the right-of-way to the roadway would be 10 feet. So we'd have almost 18 feet, almost 20 feet. We'd have 18. The actual Route 38 travel way. So those are the 4 waivers.
All right, I'm not sure who that might be coming from, but could everybody but Jim make sure they're on mute, please?
So with these 4 waivers, there's 2 things I'd like to note. We've had the review now from the planner, and I'm sure she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was any concern relative specific to the waivers. And then we've also got the review from DPW, and there was nothing specific in there that was against any of the waivers. So we have gotten their feedback now at this point. I guess what, in closing here, just to try to kind of leave you with this, is this tough site, there's an existing building there, there's a functioning business that's actually doing better than functioning. It needs to expand. We'd like to keep the business on the same lot. They've been there for 15 years, and I think they've been there pretty good neighbors. We've reduced the nonconformity of it. We brought the front yard in conformance with this front yard. We've exceeded substantially the existing side yards. We're going to add some traffic controls in here so that we have a safer parking lot. And we're going to significantly reduce the disturbance to the west. I know that's not your thing, but those are kind of the improvements we're providing. So, with that being said, that kind of concludes my rundown. And if you have any questions, I'd like to try to answer them.
All right, thank you, Neil. We'll start with Mr. Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I on? Can you
Yes,
hear me all set?
yes.
Yes.
Well, after reviewing the site plan special permit and the picture you showed us, Mr. Hanley, great improvement to the site. I mean, that's been an eyesore, I guess, for a while, being where it's stuck into that corner there, and I actually like the new design. I hope it all works out with the Conservation Commission, and I see you got the approval from the Board of Appeals. It's farther off the lot line, which is a big help to get it back into there. We want to keep a business in town that's already there. So anything we can do on my end, I'd like to do that. So I haven't seen any comments from the fire department. Are those coming, Mr. Hanley?
Yeah, so like I said, we submitted a separate note. Well, obviously we've had some challenges with fire, so we're on some previous projects, so we're hypersensitive now. So we actually wrote a separate letter dated March, I think it was March 22nd. And we provided a copy, let's see, I think of this plan here. So we provided the letter, we provided attorney analysis, we submitted it. I haven't, and I haven't reached out with all the craziness that was going on, so
Okay.
we will.
I guess one of my questions is how do they get to the rear of the building? Is there access enough to get a truck back there?
No. So there would be, so we have access to three sides. We have obviously the front, we have a loading area in the back here on the side, on the south side. We also have a flat area, 18 and a half feet wide, plus or minus, on the north side. And we're proposing a sidewalk back there just to have, to provide the ability for pedestrians. But until I get something in writing,
Okay.
we'll work with them over the next week or so.
I'm sure we're not done with this tonight. So another question I had is what is your plan going forward to stop entry into the one-way coming off of Main Street? I know it's a one-way going in and one-way coming out, but what's preventing somebody from coming in and taking a left there into the parking lot rather than going past the building?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm not sure what we can do short of the do not enter signs that we're gonna have. So we have do not enter signs on both sides of that access road.
Okay,
Really gonna have to be self-policed by the guys that own it. If it becomes a problem, talk to those people. I don't think it's any different than any other ones, but
okay.
we will have signage there.
All right, look, regarding the waivers, I don't have a problem with the waivers at all going forward. So with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ryder.
All right, thank you. I'll echo Mr. Fratalia. What a big difference on the site. A couple of concern that I had, as Mr. Fratalia stated, the one-way entrance is a concern. As you stated, that will have to be self-policed by the business owner and property owner. Also, snow storage. I'm a bit concerned that there may not be enough there, even though that small little parcel there. Maybe look at in a long-term plan as the approvals to have an off-site snow removal if necessary.
Okay.
I think that would help. And I do like if you can put a sidewalk on the left-hand side of that building that would gain access for fire around that side. Not necessarily a driveway, but at least walkable access that would be delineated, so it would not be plowed in with snow and so forth.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have any other questions other than you addressed. Once we'll see the design from the architects coming in the future, as well as you'll be addressing Mr. Hardiman's comments.
Yeah. We got those last week, and before we dug into them, I wanted to speak with you guys.
Okay. As far as the waivers, I don't see an issue with them. I think overall it's going to be a much better parcel, all said and done.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Delaney.
Yeah, one of the questions that I have on the waivers is how many parking spaces were we supposed to get and how many parking spaces do we have now?
Okay, so according to the zoning, we would need 21 parking spaces. We have 17 parking spaces is what is shown on the plan in front of you.
Okay, well, is this still going to be a liquor store, a convenience and liquor store?
Yes.
Okay, so that means when the people pull in and out, they're not there for a whole long period of time. They're in, they're out, so the parking spaces will be open as we so see it. The question I had also was with the snow storage, but I think you answered that with Mr. Ryder's, with your comment to Mr. Ryder. It is going to be a nicer looking building. The building that's there has been a long time. As a matter of fact, I can remember being 10 years old and going into that store. So it's going to be a definite improvement to the town. And as long as the fire department approval is good with the in and out, I'm all set with this. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Fowler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have some questions on the snow storage, because if normal snowing, normal plowing, if they looks like they'd have to push the snow right to left. And if they push the snow and, pile it at the end, near the grass strip, then that would preclude anybody from being able to walk, fire department also, around the building on that left side. So they would have to not windrow or pile the snow at the end of the parking lot on the left side at all. That's number one. Dave, is this going, James, is this going to be a sprinkle building?
I don't know what the threshold for a sprinkled building is. I don't know what the volume or the square footage is. I just don't know.
I'm just thinking about access for the fire department to get to the fire department connection, that's all.
Mhm.
That might come later.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely will, yeah. I just don't know what the answer is, and I can find that out.
And not having seen a rendering yet, be interested in seeing what style of building is it, Mr. Hanley?
So what we had talked about a month ago is CMU block along the base of the first floor.
Yep.
A lot of windows, center entrance, and a dormer roof.
Okay.
But we're working with Jack Sullivan's office, who's done a lot of work up and down 38, so they're pretty familiar
sure.
with your expectations. So that's
Yep.
the goal, is to get something that you guys have seen and prefer.
All right, well, thank you. My last question for today, I think, is I too was concerned when I first saw this with the two exits, two driveways, in and out, one in and one out. Do you think you have expectations that the DOT will approve this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's certainly our expectation. I get the comment about that, having somebody pull in the wrong way, but keep in mind that it is 20-foot wide, and so if you had a typical 24-foot wide two-way, each car in either direction would be given 12 feet plus or minus to maneuver. So there's room if someone were to do that. We don't want them to do that. But we have filed the DOT application, and as soon as we can push it through with them and get their comments, you guys will be the first to know.
Well, very good. Thank you. And thinking of that, I want to thank Anna, thinking of the two driveways, for the signs at the petrol station at Astle and Maine. They look great. It works fine. Thank you. Thank you for your work on that. Okay, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. All right, so for me, I think the rendering would be a big
Yeah.
thing, because, knowing what this looks like and what we're dealing with here is, obviously, this is one of the gateways into town.
Mhm.
And, obviously, every opportunity that we have when something new is going in, try and make sure that we have the most, aesthetically pleasing buildings, when as they lead into town. I think we've made that a priority, in all the points of access into the town as we look at different projects. So, you can look at some of the ones we've approved, and you'll know some of the things I think we're going to probably ask for in terms of, how this looks. Obviously, a replacement for a rather old building is an improvement. So, from that perspective, I think that's a good thing. We are talking about a bigger building, than what was there before. So obviously, it is going to require making sure that we make this look as pleasing as possible, because you are the transition one into the town, basically, right about there, as well as the fact that you're basically kind of transferring from, you got commercial, your commercial, then you got a house, then you got commercial again, just, making sure that, everything, and, houses across the street from there as well, just to make sure that everything looks as good as it can in that area. And on the entrances and exits, the one thing I'll say is that, it would be important to have the signage, the directionals. I think more than likely that, we'll want to keep some, ongoing control to make sure that, those things are kept up. And if more is needed to make sure it trains folks on how to use that, I think, we're going to need to be sure we can do that. I mean, I live down that area. I've gone to that school many times. And as of now, it's just one giant curb cut. So you've got people coming in and out from all different parts of that entranceway. Sometimes you've got 2 people coming in, 2 people going out. So I think this would be a vast improvement in terms of safety to have just an in and an out compared to what goes on there today. I think cutting down on the amount of, distance between, if somebody happens to be walking by, that they're basically walking over a driveway would be ideal. I did have a question, is there a way that, I'm going to presume that you're going to set up, or the intent is to set up deliveries early in the day, is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously you've got 2 parking spaces that need to be empty in order to accomplish that.
Correct.
Other than that, I mean, as far as the waivers go, I mean, as a trade-off for what we're dealing with, what's on site today, for what this could potentially be instead, I think that's worth, considering and, likely going with these waivers, because I do think that, they're not onerous for what's being asked for, but all the more when you compare it to what's on site as of today. I think even with some of these waivers, I think what you're going to end up in the future is much more preferable. So I think the rest of the stuff just is, the answers to the department questions and whatnot. And I think we'll get to that in a future meeting. So otherwise, I'm all set. Do we have anyone on the line for public comment on this matter?
No callers, Mr. Chairman, but like always, I'd give it about 30 seconds.
All right, so while we're doing my stretch and delay, I'll remind those listening at home that if they do want to call in, the telephone number is 978-771-0819 for any public comments on any of the hearings going forward this evening. Did a little bit of a stretch long enough. Still nothing on the line, correct?
Correct, and we're probably caught up by now.
All right, very good. So with that, I'll bring it back to the board. Are there any further questions or comments from anyone on the board?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No, all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then what is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to continue the hearing, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so a
Second.
motion to continue. We have a second to continue to 7:10 on May 4th. Is that all right with the applicant?
No, I mean, that's next week, right? I mean, that doesn't give us enough time to, it's only a week. So when the meeting after that is the 15th, is that right?
Yeah, I've got it down as the 11th.
It's May 11.
Oh,
The 11th.
Yeah.
You guys go 3 weeks in a row, huh? Okay, yeah, so I guess it would be May 11th is what we'd have to do.
All right, so then we will do this for 7:10 on May 11th. So I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
You bet, thank you very much.
All right, moving on to agenda item D, 147 Low Street, Family Trust Family Suite Special Permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have anyone here on the line online for 147 Low Street.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Attorney William Kramer for the applicants, Paul and Mary Fansel. They should be on the line as well.
Yes.
All right, very good. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before the board tonight is a application under Section 3400 of the bylaw for a special permit for a family suite that's in excess of 800 square feet. The home has existing construction that was built in 1993. It was permitted by the town at that time as a 50 by 50 addition. It predates the current family suite bylaw. So the applicants are looking to have that special permit to make it a legal family suite. We've submitted a plan that shows you the layout. The total square footage that they're looking for is 878 square feet. Under the criteria for the bylaw, there's a common closed entry, which is not included in the square footage calculation. And you can see on the plan that common closed entry and common front door that accesses both the main part of the house as well as the family suite. It has one bedroom, one kitchen area, one bathroom. And as I indicated, it doesn't have its own front door. There's a shared entry door. All the setbacks are met. They've provided one additional off-street parking space. There was a picture of that submitted with the application as well. And it's currently unoccupied, but the intent is, of course, to occupy it down the road. They have met the criteria under the bylaw, and they're looking for that special permit. And I can answer any questions that the board has.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Fowler.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, is there only one driveway?
Yes, there's one driveway. It pulls up to a two-car garage, two separate garage doors, and then the off-street or the additional parking spot is to the right. There was a picture of that. I do have it on my computer. If I can share the screen, I can show that to you.
No, I see it.
Okay.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Just as the town planner had mentioned before, is it possible just to have this up on the screen?
Yep, I can put it up.
Why don't we do that? And while you're putting that up, we'll go next to Mr. Delaney.
No.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mrs. Delaney, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, you're up.
Okay, the first question is the family suite or the house, is it on sewer as it stands now?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Is it what?
Is it on sewer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, no, where it was built a while ago, a family suite has got to be put on sewer. That's why I'm asking
No,
the
it was,
question.
it was,
So if it already exists, if it is on sewer, I'm all set with it.
it was soon as sewers came down Star Avenue.
Could you repeat that, sir, please?
It was connected to the sewer system as soon as sewers came down Star Avenue.
Okay, thank you. And Other than that, the separate driveway, one entrance, I'm all set with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did see the plans. Plans look good to me, actually. I guess the question I had is, there's no plans on who is going into the family suite yet?
It's empty at the moment, and we just wanted to sell it as a house with a family suite for a family that needed one. We've been told by our realtor that there are a number of families that are looking for houses with family suites.
Okay, so you're doing it with the intention of selling it, correct?
We hope to sell it in the near future, yes.
Okay. All right, with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ryder.
Yeah, thank you. Note you've checked all the boxes, one door under the 1,000 square feet. I think I'm all set. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, I'm all set as well. I mean, obviously, there's a few of those floating around out there that need to get the approvals. It's a lot easier if you can meet the criteria and get the approvals than have to tear it apart. So, if whoever's buying the property has family they want to move in with, that certainly is something we encourage and try to support. So, with that, I'll be all set. I just want to check, nothing from the building department, no issues that we're aware of, correct, Ron?
I honestly haven't looked at this, so
That's okay.
I
just
really
figured I'd
can't
check.
comment.
Oh, that's fine. All right, so with that, I'll open it up. Do we have anyone on the line who wishes to discuss this matter?
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so let's just give it a few extra seconds just to take care of the delay, make sure nobody calls in. I would be epically surprised if somebody called in to discuss the suite permit, but we'll obviously give them their chance to do so. And I think all those words I just said should have taken up the time that I need. So with that, I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to
Close.
close the public hearing first.
All right, I have a
Thanks,
motion
Vin.
made. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries on closing. As to the family suite special permit as requested, what is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the plan.
All right,
As
so we have a motion made and second. We'll take roll. Mr. Fowler?
Aye.
Mr. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Fratelli?
Aye.
Mr. Ryder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. We have unanimous support for the family suite special permit. Good luck, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
problem. All right. Moving on to agenda item E, 325 Marshall Street. That's continuing from our 413 meeting. The applicant has requested to continue to our May 4th meeting. And let's see.
Who is that? No.
Switch my page. Just hold on one second. All right, so can I have a motion to continue this matter until 7 o'clock on May 4th?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
it's actually, we had to move it to 7:05 for May 4th.
okay.
Because we have another item at 7 o'clock.
So that'll push the 600 one as well when we
Yeah.
get to it? Okay,
Yes.
all right. So can I have a motion to continue 325 Marshall Street to 7:05 on May 4th, please?
So moved.
So
I
moved.
have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item F, 135 Pleasant Street Elementary School, site plan special permit, continued from our 4/13 meeting.
Good evening.
Just 1 second before you get started. Mr. Delaney, just so we have it on the record, you've reviewed the discussions from the last meeting, which was the only one that you had missed, and you are
Yes.
up to speed, correct?
Correct.
All right, and the necessary paperwork, you'll submit that to the office. So with that, I will turn it over to the petitioner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, board members. My name is Peter Collins from CBRE as the owner's project manager on behalf of the Tewksbury Town Manager and the Elementary School Building Committee. With me this evening is Bill Beatrice from Plansburg Architects, Jared Genelucci from Niche Engineering, and Sam Basta from Crosby Landscaping. The design team and the OPM have continued to work and communicate harmoniously with the Town of Tewksbury DPW office through the town engineer along with the town's peer review consultant, VHB. Throughout the design process and since our last meeting on April 13th, the design team and the town engineer, along with the peer review consultant, shared in a few alternate design options with respect to stormwater layout. Last week, all parties came to an agreement on the overall design, which includes stormwater layout option identified as an option B or Exhibit B. Tonight, members from the design team from Plansburg and Niche Engineering will share their screen and provide an overview of the design and some of the options that was the option B that was selected. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, board members, at this time, I'll turn over the presentation to Bill Beatrice and Jared from Niche to share their screen to display the options and some of the selections and the agreements that have been reached with the town engineer and the design team.
Very good, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Jared Gentilucci with Niche Engineering, Project Civil Engineer. Bill, I apologize. Did you want to speak as well?
Nope, I just wanted to make sure you were getting access to the screen.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to run through some of the highlights of the Exhibit B plans that we have been coordinating with the DPW Engineering Division as well as their peer review engineer. So I am going to share my screen now, and you can just let me know if everything comes up correctly. Hopefully it should.
Okay.
Is everybody seeing a site plan labeled Exhibit B on the bottom right?
Yep.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is just run through this relatively quickly, just in general, talk about some of the changes that we've made through the coordination process. I'd be happy to go through any areas in more detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start, hopefully everybody can see my cursor. I'm going to start at the western edge of the site along the western roadway, and I'm just going to work my way around the site clockwise and just go through, again, some of the highlights and some of the changes that we've made since the previous submission to this board, and again, through all the coordination with DPW Engineering Division and their peer review engineer. So first item, right here, we have a underground recharge system number 4. We've updated the layout of the system. We've elongated it and added a couple additional water quality inlets to just economize the design of the system along this western roadway. And that helped to eliminate some pipes that had some minimal slopes on them, pipes with less than 1% slope. And now all the pipes into the system have 1% or greater slope. We've also, at this northwestern portion of the site, made a few minor adjustments to catch basin location and pipe inverts from that catch basin to this underground recharge system here, which is system number 5. And those adjustments that we have made to the design, again, increased pipe slopes. That pipe run, a few of those pipes were under 0.5%, so we are now at 0.5% or greater for this portion of the closed drainage system. Another positive change that we made was at the loading dock area, which is over here, kind of at the northwestern corner of the new building. We previously had a double catch basin in this loading dock area, and that was routed over here and went over to system number 5. What we've done is we've made a couple adjustments to the drainage of this loading dock area and driveway. We converted that double catch basin to a trench drain, and we made some adjustments to the pipe routing to essentially shorten the pipe run from this loading dock area over to System 5. And what that did, you can see in green, this whole pipe run now is at 1% or greater, whereas before we were more somewhere around 0.5% roughly. So again, maximizing the pipe slopes in this area to provide a proper capacity for the lines as well as velocity through those lines as well. Similar change we made, this is the existing vernal pool that is, again, kind of just west of the loading dock area. And our goal with the vernal pool is twofold. One is to with these changes, not make any significant adjustments to the peak water elevation or the peak runoff rate to the vernal pool. With these latest changes and the final design that we've settled on with the DPW and their peer review engineer, the vernal pool, the changes to the vernal pool will be negligible. Peak water elevations will essentially remain what we had designed previously, and the peak runoff rates remain the same in the 2 and 10-year storm. And in the 100-year storm, it's a very minor change, 0.02 of a CFS, so cubic feet per second. So impacts to the vernal pool are negligible with the latest design. But one thing we were able to do is there's a flared end that discharges the north end of the vernal pool. And there's a pipe run that comes all the way back here and actually comes out of System 6, which is over on the east edge of the site. So we made a few modifications. We extended System 6, the outlet control structure, which is now located here. And we maximized pipe slope all the way down to the vernal pool. It's a fairly long pipe run, and so that was a bit of a challenge to try to increase slope on that pipe run. That pipe run previously, most of that pipe run was under 0.5%. We now have that entire pipe run at 0.5% or greater. And so we've been able to increase velocity through that pipe run as well as capacity. And both, again, we'll provide final stormwater report which has all the backup calculations, but we've been able to confirm that we've been able to improve flows through that part of the closed drainage system out to the vernal pool. Another area that we've made a lot of minor changes, but overall cumulatively are pretty good improvement, is in this inner courtyard area in between the new building here and the existing building here. So we made a few changes in this area, some minor grading adjustments, moved a few area drains, also made some adjustments to pipe inverts. And what we were able to do throughout this entire area where we had some pipes were at 1% or greater, but we also had some pipes that were between 0.5% and 1%. So we've now gotten this area to a point where all of the pipes are at 1% or greater. And so certainly that's a good improvement from before, and again, helps to maximize velocity through the pipes as well as the capacity of those pipes. Similar case here, just southeast of that courtyard, in the southern end of this eastern parking lot here, similar adjustments to pipe inverts, and again, we were able to increase slopes so that most of the slopes for this portion of the closed drainage system are at or above 1%, with just one catch basin that is a little bit under 1%, but we're able to increase slopes to this part of the system as well. Probably the last area I wanted to touch upon is at the south end of the site. So this is the existing school building is here. This is an existing parking lot that will remain with some minor adjustments to layout, but generally the layout will stay the same. But we will have a new underground system in this south parking lot. That's system number 2. So a couple adjustments we made in this part of the site. The outlet control structure to system number 2. We made a few minor adjustments to that structure, which helps to provide a little more recharge for this system. What it also does is help to decrease the discharge rate from this system. So increase recharge, decrease discharge rate. In conjunction with that, we also took these 2 flared end sections, which are flared ends number 1 and 4. They're relatively close to each other. So we took a look at combining these 2 flared ends. And while it's not reflected on this plan, the final plans we submit will reflect an updated design that not only combines the 2 flared end sections, we also were able to optimize the pipe routing from system 2 out to that flared end. And so this particular pipe here, if you can see, is in a reddish color. That pipe was under 0.5%, and then the pipe out to the flared end was just about right at 0.5%. We've been able to maximize those pipe slopes. So this pipe is now at about 0.7%, and then the pipes out to that flared end, which again is a combined flared end, that pipe slope is now at over 1%. So again, just another effort here just to try to maximize pipe slope, which also improves the capacity and the velocity through that portion of the system. There were other minor adjustments to other portions of the site, a few invert adjustments here, there, a few water quality inlets that we added to, again, help with maintaining pipe slopes at 1% or greater. But those were the bulk of the changes that we've made at this point. And again, our plan is we'll be preparing this week a final set of site plans as well as a final stormwater report just to document all the changes. And we'll be submitting those near the end of the week to Bill at Flansburgh. And everything we'll be submitting will reflect this Exhibit B plan and all of the updates that we have made, ones that I've discussed here, as well as a few other minor updates here and there that we've also made to the design. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or if you'd like to go into a little more detail in any portions of the site, happy to do that as well.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Ryder.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. I know, and you said the final plan. Will the final plan be the questions from Mr. Hardiman will be incorporated into those final plans? I see there was a few questions he still had.
Yes, that's correct. We will issue a final response letter to those comments. We did get a copy of that letter, and I believe most of those comments we've already updated in our latest plans that we're preparing this week. But yes, we will make sure we address all of those comments, and we'll issue a formal response letter to address them there in a narrative form as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
if I could
Jared.
just jump in here. Oops.
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in. Just so everyone knows, yes, Mr. Hardiman did send us a letter that we received with a number of comments. We also got some additional comments today from Peter from VHB that we are, in the process of rolling into these updated drawings as well. So I believe at this point now we've received everybody's comments on the town side. And so we are now in the process, like Jared said, of updating all these drawings. And our plan is, at least by the end of this week to electronically get an updated set of drawings in everybody's hand, and then get them sent to the printers on Friday and hard copies next week to the town.
Okay. That being said, Bill, thank you. I guess this question is for Peter. Peter, do you foresee that after these final plans, we'll be looking for a vote next meeting? Is that the intent?
Well,
I might be jumping to the gun, Mr. Chairman.
no, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Ryder. I was going to actually ask that question at the conclusion of our presentation and at the conclusion of some questions. Quite frankly, from where I sit, I would be asking this evening where I believe we have reached an agreement and the design has been accepted by the town engineer and the peer review consultant. As Jared mentioned, some of these adjustments, whether they be minor or cumulative, make improvements as requested. And the design team, through Niche Engineering in Flansburgh and Crosby, will be updating these documents this week, getting them to the town planner's office as quickly as possible, wherein we would like to begin, or at least have a conversation this evening to begin the idea of the process of closing the hearing. With the full understanding, we know there's a multi-step process to closing a hearing. And while it's often spoken that it's a two-step process, if we could begin this evening and then maybe again next week, at the very latest, in my thinking, no later than May 11th. Even if it's a three-step process, that's okay. I mean, our goal is certainly to have the hearing closed no later than May 11th, because we understand the planning board has a couple of weeks off thereafter. So I hope I didn't give a long answer, but at least we would like to begin the discussion of closing the hearing this evening.
Okay. I think the question's for you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, I know we've touched on the traffic portion. I know one of the big outstanding issues here were the drainage concerns by DPW. We've seem to have addressed the resident concerns on Monroe Circle. Will this be a two-step process? Just trying to understand where we go from here.
Well, I'm trying to. Did we begin this last year?
It seems that.
I don't have my first. Okay, so we're not beholden to our new rule. I'll say that.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I won't speak for all the other members because there's several that still have their, chance to speak in between here. But I'll say this:
Sure.
Where we have 2 more meetings, basically back to back after this, I would be leery of closing a hearing like this week. When if something comes up, once a hearing's closed, we're sort of stuck. And now we start doing that stuff where it's subject to, which regardless of our 2-step rule that we've sort of implemented since the first of the year, we've really, really, really tried to push to not do the subject to. If I thought we were going to be sitting around for, weeks and weeks before we were going to meet again, maybe. But I think where we meet 2 weeks in a row, I think we should be able to get things, T's crossed, I's dotted, and do this, under the normal circumstances. As long as everybody gets in what they need to get in, and we're able to review what we need to review, without taking the chance that we close it and then, oops, we needed to address something else. But I'll let everybody else, chime in on that before we get to the end. But so we'll move on.
Thank you. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to jump the gun there. Just looking kind of the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's fine. Mr. Fowler, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with your thought that this was on the old format, but I think this is such a large project and a lot of things to, a lot of I's and a lot of T's to cross and dot, that we should probably spend the 2 weeks to do this. I hope that doesn't mess anybody's plans up, but I believe that would be the prudent thing to do.
Do you
hear that?
Yes. Do you have anything else for them on the presentation?
Well, I don't, no, I think I'm all set. Mr. Ryder answered or asked 2 of the questions I was going to ask, and I thought they were important and they were taken care of, so I'm all set for now.
All right, very good. And no other outstanding concerns you had, correct? So with that, we'll move on to Mr. Battaglia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice, great presentation of the stormwater concerns we have at the property. It's a large process to get it through, but I think we're in a much better place now, and I'm glad to hear that everybody's on the same page. It seems like we were just fluttering around and not getting it all together. So I really look forward to getting this project done and signed, sealed, and delivered. It's been going on a long time. I can't wait to get a shovel into the ground and get it behind us and get this project. You guys have all done a great job getting us to this point. So I'm hoping we can get it done and signed and sealed by May 11th. And I look forward to that date. With that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Delaney.
I'm basically in agreement with everybody. There's no more major items other than the stormwater layout. That was the last major item for the school.
Correct.
Once that was answered, I think all the other questions that we've had right along this variance, did we straighten out the fire hydrant situation? We're gonna match the ones that are in the town?
Yes.
That is,
There was a question about the fire hydrants.
yep.
I just
that
want to
was-
make sure. They
Yeah.
used the ones that are made by the town. Other than that, I'm all set. I agree. We have 2 more weeks to deal with this. I'd like to see the shovel in the ground now, but I'll wait the 2 weeks if that's what it's going to take.
All right. So for me, the only question I had, I don't have a note here on it, but we did have a resident who kept asking a question about one approval that we were waiting on. Has that been resolved?
The stormwater.
That's it.
No, that was the, Mr.
Loma.
Chairman, I believe that was the FEMA
Yes,
floodplain.
that's it.
Yes. Peter, could you speak to that?
Yes, I can, Mr. Ryder, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we have the Loma amendment, map amendment from FEMA has been finalized. It's been signed, and we have a copy of that as well through the design team. Excuse me. Yes,
Is there any
that's
chance,
included.
just out of curiosity, is there any chance that you're able to put that up?
the,
I
Yeah.
only ask
The
for the
Loma?
I only ask for the following reason. For, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 straight hearings, we did have one resident who had pressed this issue. And, you know, in our remote setting here, I'd like, if we can, just to have it up on the screen. That way, if for some reason that resident happens to be at home watching, that he'll see that, you know, we've received what he's asked about. Obviously, you guys have said you have, everything has been submitted to the town. If you're not able to share it, that's, you know, that's fine. It's just, if you are, you know, if we can get it up on the screen, that would be helpful, but it's not imperative. Just something that, like I said, kind of a T and I dotting kind of issue.
I can share it. I can share it now, Mr. Chairman. I have it. I have it
I see.
available. I requested my screen to be shared. If I could ask Brian or Jason from Mike to share it. Can you see my screen? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's up there.
Oh, great. So here's a memorandum from the Niche Engineering Office on the filing of the Loma, which is the map amendment through FEMA. I'll give you my thumbnails here. I believe it's 11 pages in depth. I'll scroll down a little bit. This came from the FEMA. It's a rather long, lengthy description of the Loma map. Wherein
And a copy that has been submitted to the town, correct?
if it I believe it has, but it will certainly be in the final package. I believe we did send it along. And this may have gone directly to the building commissioner's office, wherein the building commissioner's office oversees the map amendments. But I'll double check the distribution of this information.
All right. Well, like I said, just, you know, I just wanted to, you know, just because we did have the one resident who did press the issue multiple meetings, I wanted to make sure that it was addressed, that it has been resolved, and that way, if they, you know, have any outstanding concerns, those should hopefully be alleviated.
Yes.
Beyond that, obviously, I'm just as interested in wrapping this up as everybody else, which is sort of why the last few meetings I've made that comment that I'd like to see us get to an end point. I will make one note, though, of something that I did not necessarily realize prior to this. Anna, you can correct me if I'm getting this information wrong, but because of the rules that have been passed as part of the, you know, emergency state of emergency, the appeal period is told, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So my understanding is that until May 4th, the appeal period is on hold. It won't start back up again until that date.
Now, is that subject to, is that a, whichever comes first, May 4th, or the emergency, state of emergency is lifted? Because if
Yeah,
it's
so I
extended,
believe it's, if the state of emergency, my understanding, I could be wrong, if that's extended, then I believe that date would be extended with it, but I would have to verify that, so.
all right. So just for everybody's information, that if that's the case, the 20-day appeal period is on hold. So even if we finish approving this, it's still the state of emergency has to be lifted in order for that 20-day period to start rolling to get the final decision finalized. So it was just another reason why I just as soon make sure that over the next week or two, we get everything squared away, so that once it's submitted and, and that lifts, then those 20 days can count, but we're not necessarily as under the gun, because if this is approved this week, the appeal period still isn't going to start running yet. So, but beyond that, I'm all set. So with that, I will open it up to the audience. If anyone who's called in, do we have anybody on the line who wishes to discuss this matter?
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we will stall and delay for a few moments just to make sure that they've had a chance to catch up. I suspect that if we continue this, that you'll be looking for next week, and then we'll go from there, correct? If everything's squared away, and if not, we can always get to the 11th.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman and board members. Yes, thank you very much. And we certainly want to provide all the information that's necessary for full review. And we intend to do that and meet the obligations for the proper closing and multi-step process.
All right, so very good. I believe we've stalled long enough. So with that, I'll bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to continue this hearing till May 4th.
All right,
Second.
so then we will put this on for motion to continue this to 7:15 on May 4th. And we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Gentlemen, we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so moving on to agenda item G, 195 Woburn Street. Site plan special permit, use special permit, sign special permit, continue up from our 413 meeting. Is everyone here from 495 Woburn Street?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can.
For the record, Robert Buckley, Reamer and Bronstein. I have with me this evening Connor Nagel and Jeff Flack from VHB, our site civil engineers. As the board will recall, the last week we gave an overview of the overall project, which is located at 495 Woburn Street and 40 Discovery Way, which is on the other side of the MBTA commuter rail line off of Woburn Street. It entails the demolition of the existing structure and a construction of a new building of approximately 775,000 square feet. As I indicated at that meeting, it's rather one of the more challenging sites that I've ever been involved with, because literally half of the building is in one jurisdiction and half is in the other. So it's been challenging to try to wed the two bylaws together, and we went, as indicated at the last meeting, I think we've done a good job of it, which is the basis for the waiver requests. While we feel that we've satisfied and adhered to the public policy objectives of both communities, it necessitates certain relief from both communities. But that being said, and given the complexity of the site, we've opted to try to bifurcate it or segment it into discrete packets of information. So at this meeting, we provided last week a response to the planning board staff comments. It was prepared by VHB, and I believe that was delivered to the board or to the town last week, where we went through all of the comments and feel that we've responded to them, with the exception of traffic, which we'll get to in a second. And we also gave a summary of the waiver requests that we are seeking and the justification therefore. With respect to traffic, in the next day or two, we intend to submit to the town a response to both the town's staff, planning board staff, and others who have had traffic comments, as well as the peer review consultants' comments, and that will be delivered to the town hopefully in the next day or two, as well as some draft conditions for the board's consideration that we feel that address the board's concerns or the town's concerns. What we'd be looking for at the end of this is maybe a continuance to the May 4th meeting to just give an update on traffic. So and also at that meeting, we will be submitting the comments to the engineering report or the engineering comments that we just received, so that by that hearing, all of the technical data from the various town departments would have been submitted to the board for their consideration. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board, and you can either ask myself or Connor or Jeff any questions that the board may have.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Ryder. Ryder?
I think he's gone.
All right, we'll start
No,
with.
I'm here.
Oh,
No,
there we go.
I was muted. My apologies. No, I'm looking forward, Mr. Chairman, to the traffic report, as well as the responses from town engineers. I know there was a couple waivers in request to some of the stormwater requirements. I'd be interested to see what the response from town engineer and the that also is from conservation. That would be it for now. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just for a point of information, we are before the Conservation Commission now. We did open the hearing, so.
All right.
Thank you.
Nothing else, Mr. Ryder, then Mr. Frataia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Buckley, I want to take this moment to commend your whole team presentation. The last time we met, I was very, very impressed by everybody on your team. Very excellent presentation and very professional. So we see a lot of people come in front of us, and you guys did a great job. And I just wanted to take the time to commend you for that. It's a pleasure so far. So
well, thank you very much. It's rare that we ever get that compliment, but we try to do that. Our view is, as we said in the beginning of this process, it's our job to provide you with the information that you need. It's not your job to go hunting for it. So
I agree. So thank you so much for that. So I just have a couple comments, and I'll wait till. Have we seen any renderings of the actual building, color renderings, or am I off key there?
I believe there may have been a rendering included. I don't know if we have one, Connor.
Let me just see if I can pull it up here from another file. But yes, it was included with the submitted plan set.
Okay, all right. I've just I had one. That was one of my questions, but I also seen the. I'm very satisfied with the noise levels and distances you have from the residential areas. That was pretty good. You're pretty far away, so I wouldn't have any problems with that.
And as you know, we did provide a report by the engineers as to that.
Yeah, and that was great. So, pretty good distance there. So, other than that, I'm looking forward to the traffic. I know you're gonna have a lot of cars coming in and out. So, we'll like to see what they have to say about it, because it's a busy street as it is now. So, hopefully, off-peak hours will work okay to get everybody in and out. So, other than that, I'm all set. So, so just a rendering here you're showing me?
Yes, that's correct. So this this is the north elevation there, south elevation.
I was looking for some type of colored rendering of what the building's exterior gonna look like and all that, or?
It would be pretty much as you see it here. The north elevation office is the front corner as you come into the site from Woburn Street. That would be the northeast corner.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but the package we have, the large packet with all the designs and everything, the cover sheet, do you have that version but in color?
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think, is that, Mr. Vitale, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, because we get them all as black and white, so I think that's why we were hoping you guys had those ones.
Sure.
What up? All right. Sorry, Mr. Vitale. Please continue.
No, that's fine. So what's that? A gray or exterior building is gray or white, or what is that? It's like very hard to see on my tablet here.
Yes, I believe it's a white or off-white.
Okay. Is that gray on the top?
Correct.
Gray doors or?
Not sure about the door color, but it is a gray band across the top.
Yeah.
At the next hearing,
Getting that color for us?
we'll have that at the next hearing. We'll also have a conceptual color scheme. We'll be able to walk you through the colors.
Perfect. That's
That'd be
So
great.
with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Battaglia. Mr. Fowler?
What happened?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to echo Mr. Pataglia's comments about the submittal of the plan. I too, I even told my wife that when I went home, not home, I was at home already. When I was done with it, that was the most concise session and well laid out, even as far as being what we're doing now. Very difficult. I mean, I'm doing this at a kitchen table and a dining room table, and I don't have enough room on it to spread a large plan out. So it's nice to have this on the computer in front of me. I would ask this, being the fact that the main entrance is in Tewksbury, I'm interested in what the landscaping will be. I haven't seen, or maybe I've missed it, I haven't seen a landscaping plan yet.
The landscape plans are also included in the plan set. I don't have a rendering of those here tonight. We can certainly blow that up for the next hearing.
Yeah,
but
we'll make a note of that and have a discussion as part of the next hearing on that. There is a landscape plan.
That would be great. Thank you. Other than that, I'm all set. All set, Mr. Chairman. Did you get that, Steve?
Steve, you're muted.
Sorry, yes. Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Mr. Delaney, before you start, I should have done it at the beginning, but just as a reminder, you've reviewed the matters from our previous meeting on this and are up to speed, correct?
Correct.
All right, you'll get that paperwork into the office. And with that, it is your turn.
From the way everybody was talking about the presentation, I certainly wish I was here to hear it. But the one question I guess that I have when we have two towns or whatever involved in a building, is the life safety issues worked out? In other words, when the fire alarm in the building goes off, or if there is a problem, have we straightened out who's making the call, or both making the call?
Mr. Chairman, there have been numerous discussions over the last 6 months on that, and I believe that both departments and both towns are satisfied. I don't know if you want to add anything, Connor, to that. But.
Just to say that we actually had a joint meeting with both fire departments, so they both were there together to talk through comments that we provided feedback on, or provided updates on, and they approved the plan. They gave us specifics on hydrant location, circulation around the building, and technical detail for the project mechanical engineers for alarms and whatever within the building.
Okay, so in other words, when the fire alarm goes off, we have somebody gonna respond to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mr. Chairman, may I make a response? I'd like to echo what I said at the last meeting. The cooperation between the two communities has been nothing but superb, and particularly with fire safety and public safety, there have been numerous meetings to coordinate the response and the mutual assistance, and I believe that at least I've attended 3 or 4 of those meetings. So they've been well well-versed in how this is going to operate.
All right, very good. So what,
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set. Thank you.
all right, thank you, Mr. Delaney. For my purposes, I mean, I can't say anything different than what everybody else has said. This is about as squared away a presentation as I think we get in terms of everything. So, I have no issues with what's been submitted. I'll also, though, echo the other members in, looking for a few of these renderings, just again, both for our purposes, but also for the residents who, their only opportunity is going to be to see what we're seeing here in these
Understood.
my meetings. So it's helpful, I think, from their point of view. The one that I would most interested, sort of dovetails, I think, with Mr. Fowler's request, is I'd very much like to see what people looking from the front are going to see. I realize that the idea is that they mostly won't see the building, but what they're going to see from the front, landscaping, the signage, like, what it's going to look like to someone out there on Woburn Street, I think is really important for our purposes to know that, the residents.
A point of arrival.
Yes, exactly. Just along that front area and, how it's going to look from, say, across the street.
Right.
I think would be useful and important. As for working to get this finalized, I think, you're probably listening to a couple of the other hearings. We meet the next 2 weeks in a row. It's a little out of the ordinary for us, but circumstances have sort of set it up that way. And then there's a break. So if the intent is to try to get this squared away to be finalized on, say, the 11th, I would stress that you work very closely with Anna to work out, any and all language.
Yep.
So that it's as close to ready coming into next week's meeting, and at which point, hopefully, you'll be able to square away any outstanding issues with engineer or whoever, so that it's really back to our purposes at that point to deal with. And, that would be in the best position to try to have this finalized. I would think maybe on the 11th, if that's what everybody else feels as well. But that's, after that, there is the break for our June meeting. So there is a little bit of a longer wait if things aren't squared away for the 11th. So obviously, in your best interest to make sure that, you get everything in as quickly as possible to whoever needs it. And that you, like I said, you work closely with Anna to work out, the language. And, as you pointed out, we are dealing with two towns. So, all the more that we just need to make sure everything's as squared away as it needs to be before we finalize anything.
Understood. And as I indicated, Mr. Chairman, we would not intend to take too much time at your next hearing, but we would hopefully in the next day or two have the engineer's response and the traffic responses, as well as I think you will find the very responsive conditions that the applicant is willing to live by to address the concerns that have been raised by the town.
All right, very good. So we'll look forward to seeing that at the next meeting. With that, I will open it up to anyone who wishes to have a comment on this matter. Do we have anyone on the line looking to comment?
No calls, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so as with all our hearings, we'll try to give it a few seconds just to make sure anyone at home has had a chance to call in if they needed to. As a reminder, again, that number 978-771-0819. And I suspect that we are still without callers.
Correct.
All right, so with that, I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
Motion to continue.
All right, so a motion to continue this matter to 7:20 on May 4th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll see you guys at the next meeting.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
All right, that brings us to agenda item H, 600 Woburn Street. The site plan special permit continue from a 4/13 meeting. The applicant has requested to have this continued to our May 4th meeting, which would be at 7:10. So do we have a motion to continue this matter to 7:10 on May 4th.
So moved.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. That takes care of the public hearings. Is there any old business that anybody needs to discuss? Hearing none.
Yeah, Mr.
And-
Chairman, I have a
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why are we meeting 3 weeks in a row? Just curious. But-
I think one of those meetings was supposed to be the town meeting, so we decided to use
Yes.
it
Okay.
and not take the break. Otherwise, we would have just had that other meeting in May.
All right.
And so we basically just added that in its place.
Okay.
Technically, we're in public meeting when we're at town meeting, but, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Fowler.
let Vinnie know we get extra pay for it.
I don't think it's hazard pay, but yeah, sure. All right. Any new business?
I have a question. I guess maybe Anna can answer this. Is MDR still doing any work for the town?
MDR.
Yeah, MDR construction.
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I wouldn't be involved in it. So I don't know if you.
I know they've done a lot of street work for us in the past, and they have that yard down on Main Street, the old police station.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I don't know what the current status is. So.
Okay. So my question is to everybody on the board. Yes, I'm tired of driving by that site with land, with dirt and construction equipment there right on Main Street. So if he's doing some work for the town, I guess that's okay. But I guess my question is, why is it on Main Street the way it is? It doesn't look too good for us as you drive by.
Mr. Fratalia. So I know in the past when they were working on, obviously on Main Street last year, that was for the town.
Right.
So I
That's
don't
why I
know
asked
if
you that
that work
question.
was still going or, yeah, the extent.
Okay,
of it.
that's all. If they're still working, then that's great. But if not, I mean, I think it's time to clean it up a little bit.
Also, could I follow up on that? When they bought the property, there was supposed to be 20 parking spaces for the elderly. It's on Carnation Drive, where he's filled up the lot with the dirt and all his equipment and so forth. Those parking spaces do not exist. So it would be a good idea to take a look at it and see what is going on with the property. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Ryder.
Mr. Chairman, one last thing. I was driving down Main Street the other day. The development or the new building on Jerome, corner of Jerome, the old Wicked Cheesy parcel. As part of that, the facing the building, far right-hand corner, we asked for a rip-rap swale into the old Great Swamp as part of an overflow, as part of that project. I know the landscaping hasn't been completed. They did put sod down in the fall, but prior to their seeding, I would like to see that done, as the state did various spots down along that area. Anna, can you look into that?
Yeah, Mr. Ryder. So, Mr. Chairman, I can look into those two items.
Please, thank you.
I don't.
Thank you,
know,
Anna.
It'll probably be more than next week, but I'll let the board know.
That's fine.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything in the correspondence? I don't believe so, correct?
Nope, Mr. Chairman.
Any town planner report items?
Nope, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we have our next meeting, obviously, on the 4th. I will take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
All right, I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you, good night, and we'll see you next week.
Mr. Delaney, good seeing you.
Good night, gentlemen.